Um, Hello, I'm here and we're with Ed Torre, and we're going to do this short video series on Filipino culture and politics.
Politics, yeah.
Okay. And we have our politics is evolving these days, and we thought that we'd take a step back and see, okay, where's this all coming from? No? So for this first segment, we'll talk about um, Filipino political culture from the past, no, before these more modern political structures emerged. So, Ed, what do you think? We had this conversation, and what do you think of where did we start off, and how does that explain how things are evolving?
Well, most observations about Philippine politics criticize Filipinos for not looking at the larger picture, but only
Mm-hmm.
thinking of immediate family or extended family. If you want to be sophisticated about it, the Germans sociologically distinguish it Gemeinschaft, people you, and Gesellschaft, which is the one subject to rational, predictable rules. But it's a matter of scale also. They always say that we Filipinos are quite competent and capable on smaller organizations. Then we flounder when it gets very
The
big.
bigger picture.
But politics, by definition, is about the bigger picture. No?
Mhm.
It's not just a relationship of neighbors or groups to each other. It is looking at the whole, either the whole country or a whole city. So I think the challenge is really both. It's not just parties
Mhm.
and families, but also government. Now, when I got out of prison the second time in '86,
Mhm.
you see, I came from a movement
Mhm.
that talks of building a large movement,
Yes.
NDF, CPP, and all that. Then, okay, democracy is restored. And of course, you say, well, it's the same political families back. And I said, so let's start with that. I mean, rather than force it, so my proposition is rather than looking for new political parties, which we were also were hoping, let's first start with who are the political clans in the Philippines? Because the main organization that has produced leaders who get elected,
Mhm.
who aspire for office, are political clans, no?
Mhm.
Which is bigger than a political family. But
Mhm.
I call it also less than what you would call a pejorative term na political dynasty.
Mhm.
Ang dating ng dynasty, parang we monopolize. Ang point ko, no, clan is simply the organization which breeds and develops, prepares.
Mhm.
So, so for me, now in fact in IPD then, Institute of Popular Democracy, Eric Gutierrez did a study
Mhm.
of who were the ones elected in the new Congress, and so
Mhm.
identified who are the clans who are
Mhm.
related to
Mhm.
each other. And I think that still remains the same. You might have a
Mhm.
formal party structure, but
Mhm.
within that party, you have
You'll
different
see
political
family
clans.
members who
Yeah, who
are.
are, and very often they change parties by clan. So now, of course, how many are there? There's all kinds of debate, but obviously, you're talking only a few hundreds, maybe
Yeah, I heard
less.
300, a number 300 political clans down, no?
Yeah, because if you look at it, okay, how many provinces do we have? 81. So
Mhm.
presumably there is one dominant political clan,
Uh,
but a few more. So
per province. Per
yeah, per
province.
province. So, or if you take congressional districts, you have
Mhm.
200 plus. So yeah, I guess definitely I think it's fewer than 500.
Uh-huh,
No,
uh-huh.
I mean, no, not but political clans that one way or the other, one time or the other, have won
Mhm.
successfully and held political office. Maybe that's the
Over
one.
over multiple terms.
Yeah, yeah. And let's say starting 1946
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
now, which is what, less than
60
70.
years.
Yeah, 60 years? No,
70, almost 70 years.
70
Yeah.
years. So that would be interesting to see how many are there. And I remember one time we said, but do they disappear?
Mhm. Do these political clans
Yeah,
disappear?
they only mentioned one. They said there was a time when in Cagayan, one dominant clan was the Dupayas.
Mhm.
And at some point, they simply were defeated and disappeared. And part of it was
They
they
gave.
had no more family members who ran for office.
Mhm.
So, but there are others clearly who are also emerging as new political clans,
Mhm.
building up. I think that's
Mhm.
also the So there's also
Flux.
a rise and fall,
Uh,
but there are maybe what we could look at. It interesting is who are those who over these 70 years.
Over multiple generations. Kung
Yeah.
minsan lolo pa nila
Yeah.
yung ano.
One time when whom did we meet? Was it, I think, Governor Dominic Petilla
Mhm, mhm.
of Leyte.
Yes.
He said, I think we are the oldest political, what they call even dynasty. And what he meant was not just the Petillas, but their close relationship. I think the Velosos, a few others. It would be an interesting study, even starting with the provinces, because one of the issues against federalism
Mhm.
is that it might simply reinforce the dominance of local political elite. That is to the presumption that when you have unitary, that when you rise to national, you somehow are more broad-minded. I'm saying maybe it's better not to give
Assume.
such a big pie to people whose thinking is so narrow. You're a political client, you're just interested in a province. Okay, you play with the other 6 provinces in a federal state.
Mhm.
Maybe in the process, some of you will develop a more
A state.
federal, I call it a regional, and maybe that's
consciousness.
a good step toward becoming national, which has happened in Europe. You know that the prime minister comes from a region that has performed well, then runs for national office. Isn't that maybe a reasonable step by
Progression,
step, rather than just from rise to the Senate, become president, and then take care of your families?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Anyway, I don't know. My own proposition is that maybe our concepts and categories, a lot of it is obviously inherited from political science, sociology, which is dominantly obviously from other traditions.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we should wed that with
Mhm.
the multidisciplinary approach of Psikologiyang Filipino,
Mhm.
looking at our categories,
Mhm.
not just Philippines, but maybe Southeast Asia, if
Mhm,
not
mhm,
Asia. And maybe there's something
Our worldviews that
not, because the whole point of theory is that it should have both an explanatory,
Mhm.
it allows you to understand,
Mhm.
and then ideally also a predictive role.
Mhm, mhm. So that we'll better understand what we're going through, and then we can think our way forward.
Yeah, because, well, our bias is not just to understand. As activists, we want to transform.
Mhm, mhm.
But if you have the wrong analysis
Right.
or a wrong proposition, you might just be getting frustrated simply because, one, you underestimate the power of this so-called pre-rational,
Indigenous, yeah.
and on the other hand, also underestimate alternative strategies that will build on these clans and all. But because there are clans and clans, you could also have clans from lower class and middle class.
Sorry.
No. Okay.
Okay.
So that's a first proposition.
Okay. So on that note, we'll wrap this up, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Thanks.